Good morning, Jeffco teachers. Today you will focus on how to maximize student learning time. Our students have not been in a classroom in 6 months. Let's not begin by talking more. Let's begin by thinking more about how we use time. How will you maximize student learning time in both remote and hybrid settings? You will have a library of resources available to you on this topic. Just like entering a brick-and-mortar library, choose only a few resources and go deep. We provided many choices and resources because Jeffco teachers bring a wide variety of experience, and we want to meet everybody's needs. Before we begin, let's check back in with the equity team and discover how using culturally relevant practices, or CRT, help you maximize learning time. When you're done watching this video, please choose just a few resources on maximizing student learning time at the starting line video, and there you will find the resources from the equity team. Thanks for all your work today.
Hi, my name is Ariane Rivera, and I'm an Equity and Diversity Specialist with Jeffco's Student Engagement Office.
My name is Raina Razak, and I'm an Equity and Diversity Specialist here in Jeffco. Thanks so much for tuning in as we go over a very quick summary of culturally responsive teaching. Take a moment to consider a time when you felt seen and valued as a student. Reflect individually, and if you're with a team, feel free to pause here and share.
Before we dive into what culturally responsive teaching is, we want to highlight why it is important. You reflected on things that made you feel valued as a student. We all know that we learn better when we have a relationship with the teachers we are learning from and the content we are learning.
The complex history of white supremacy in the United States still causes repercussions for Black and Brown students. Culturally responsive teaching theorists respond to this oppression with teaching strategies that are designed for marginalized students.
But with CRT, it is not just for historically marginalized students. It improves outcomes for everyone. Similar to what Shelley Moore says about inclusive education, we are adjusting our aim just a little, like the 7-10 split, to be more effective for all.
Zaretta Hammond is one of the leading teacher educators and focuses her work around brain science and CRT. Our brains are actually hardwired to respond better to culturally responsive methods of teaching. This holds true for in-person, hybrid, and remote learning experiences. We have links to her work in our resources section.
Goldie Muhammad is another CRT scholar. Her work focuses on practical application. The core of Dr. Muhammad's work is the 4 elements of culturally and historically responsive teaching. In summary, they are identity development, which refers to notions of who we are, who others say we are, and who we desire to be. Skills development, which refers to competence or ability based on what educators deem important for student learning. These skills are often defined by achievement standards, but proficiency scales can help us go beyond that. Next is intellect, which is rooted in content analysis and knowledge building. And lastly, criticality, which moves beyond intellectualism and teaches youth to understand power, inequality, social justice, and oppression across systems and relationships with a sense of practical relevance.
All of these things will help students apply not only the academic skills they need to succeed, but also the social, emotional, and analytical skills that will serve them well beyond their formal education.
Consider, how are you curating a diverse curriculum? In language arts, are you lifting up authors from multiple backgrounds, discussing multiple topics? In math and science, are your word problems culturally relevant?
Like the role of geometry in Islamic architecture, the trailblazing work in science and gender equity that Marie Curie advanced, the ways that others found Isaac Newton to be kind of a jerk, even though he was a genius. And with any subject, can you fold in things that are happening in the world right now?
Which culturally diverse figures are represented in your classroom environment and in your curriculum?
If you're with a team, this would be a great time to pause and discuss some of the things we just talked about. Also, think about how all of this works in partnership with proficiency scales and high expectations for our students. We also want you to know that the EDI team has developed a culturally responsive teaching reflection tool that can serve as a guide for you to audit and reflect on your own practices. You can find a link to the reflection tool in the resource guide for this video.
The last piece we want to share is that we don't want to compartmentalize culturally responsive practices as something separate, but rather think of it as embedded throughout all of our practices.
Practicing cultural responsiveness disrupts institutionalized oppression related to schooling by building student motivation, encouraging lifelong academic, social, and emotional competencies, improving student academic performance, reducing disproportionality, and reducing school pushout.
Thank you again. We hope you will consider how culturally responsive practices connect with proficiency scales and with deeper learning in your role.
We hope to see you at one of our future professional learning sessions, and please check out the resource guide for this video.